I'm transforming every single thing in Minecraft on one giant island. But 1,000 hours into building, and I've realised this world has a major flaw. You see, so far, I've built some pretty crazy stuff. Yet all these builds have one thing in common. They're all stuck in the past. Medieval villages, ancient cities, dormant giants, not a single advanced civilization or shred of technology in sight. It's time to change that. But that's where I've hit my next problem. Today, I'm heading into the flower forest. Not exactly the ideal spot to plonk a big old concrete city. So, my solution? Ditch the flowers. Pave over everything to create...
What are you doing?
Building a city? How else do you expect me to do it?
Maybe not by destroying the whole biome you're meant to be transforming?
Good point. And that's when I discovered Solarpunk, an optimistic vision of the future, where cities are harmoniously intertwined with nature. Now that's a pretty perfect starting point for our flower forest civilization. You see, our flower forest is already a unique biome, full of creatures known as mythic pollinators. Over centuries, this biome that was once pretty empty turned into a literal forest of giant flowers, with the mythic pollinators accelerating the growth of all vegetation in the biome. So I went ahead and gave Minecraft's vanilla flowers a massive upgrade and planted them across the whole biome. You may have also noticed a few other additions I snuck in the background, but we'll come back to those later. Naturally, when discovered by villagers, the flower forest's unique characteristics were researched, and eventually the villagers, now known as the Solari, learned how to harness and manipulate photonic and solar energy from the plants in the biome. This particular flower, known as the Great Bloom, is the largest in the biome, and where the Solari built their city, an advanced settlement harnessing power from the flower that it sits on. Honestly, at this point, I'm just wondering how exactly I'm going to build an entire city on a flower. I really don't know if this is going to work. I guess we should start in the centre. At the heart of the city lies the Stigma Core, the Solari's central power source. Fueled by the pollination of the mythic pollinators, the Stigma Core provides the Solari with a consistent source of photonic and solar energy, which they then convert to fuel in the base of the Stigma Core. This fuel, known as solar nectar, is then piped around the city. And that was my next job, plotting out the city itself. But things were trickier than I'd expected. Okay, slight problem. I built these platforms to act as a sort of foundation for the city, but it's not really looking how I envisioned. In fact, it looks awful. So what I think I'm going to do is remove these red foundations and try and rebuild the city up and around the Stigma Core. That way, it should feel like one cohesive piece and one whole city. With a better plan in mind, I started replanning the city. But how exactly does this specific flower create so much energy? Well, that's where this building comes in, the Chrysalia, where the mythic pollinators take sanctuary right here in the city. The Solari created this hub for the pollinators to recharge, pretty much guaranteeing the constant, concentrated pollination of the Great Bloom. You'll find the pollinators recharging here in the Chrysalia, but they'll also be a big part of the gameplay in this biome. But we'll get to that later. Okay, so what about the rest of the city? Well, there were a few fundamentals I wanted to get in place, and with all the research carried out by the Solari, I figured they could use a laboratory, where they continue to monitor the activity of the Great Bloom, the mythic pollinators, and some mysterious activity further south in the flower forest, which we'll find out about later. Speaking of monitoring the activity of the biome, there's more than just science to think about. The Solari have a city to run, and this is where they do it, here in the Nectralis. This is essentially where the Solari convene to discuss important political matters, a hub for all their decision making and top secret meetings. Okay, but what about transportation? This bloom is pretty high up, and heading back to the water elevator in the stalk won't always be a convenient way to start an adventure. So, my solution? Leaf gliders. This building is the Leaf Glider Station, where you can actually grab a leaf glider for yourself and glide out of the city to start your adventure in the biome. It's kind of like a less powerful alternative to an elytra, giving you more options for traversing the huge terrain before you make it to the end. I've got to admit, this biome looks pretty awesome from up here. Anyhow, this city is pretty focused on cultivating, growing, and even mutating plants. But they don't really have anywhere to do that yet, so that's what this building is for, the Seed Vault. This is where the Solari store their seeds and grow their plants. It's kind of like a mini farm, and they have one on each side of the city. We've got a bunch of functional buildings here, but I've quickly realised that the Solari don't really have anywhere to let loose and have fun, so my next addition is an arcade. Given that this is meant to be a high-tech city, I thought it'd be cool to create a game controller hologram, some billboards and neon signs, and even a big screen up top. Maybe I can come back to the screen later and work some redstone magic, but for now, it's time to head inside. And that's where I got really carried away. Inside, you'll find claw machines, arcade machines, even a dance machine. But this place is more than just decorational. It contains some of the coolest features of the entire map. First, we've got Slime Pong. This might just be the most addictive minigame I've ever played. And then there's this custom arcade machine I added, the Blocks Rift. Yank this lever and the machine literally takes you to a different Minecraft dimension. You can revisit all the boss battles you've completed across the map with different modifiers thrown into the mix. Or face your friends in new minigames like this custom parkour course. And if that's not enough fun for you, you can chat to the arcade villager, who will send you out on secret quests and give you these Blocks coins in return. You can use the Blocks coins in the arcade's gacha machine and collect plushies of all the cutest custom mobs I've added across the entire map. And that's not even the whole interior. There are more rooms you'll get to explore for yourselves when the world's complete. Okay, so since we're in the flower forest and flowers are used for crafting dye in Minecraft, I thought it made sense to build an ink station in the city, where the Solari can extract the pigment from the biome's flowers to create their own dyes, inks, and paints. That's also why each of the buildings around the city have a bit of a different colour scheme. With all these flowers at their disposal, the Solari have created a colourful skyline to complement their colourful surroundings. To wrap things up, I built some residential buildings so the Solari actually have somewhere to live. And now I'm realising I've got a lot I still want to add to bring this place to life. So then I got to work on creating decorations for the city. Some scaffolding for the Stigma core, a bunch of billboards and signs, solar panels, street lights, vending machines, and my favourite addition, flying vehicles. And of course, you guys remember that solar nectar that powers the city from the Stigma core? Well, these containers are called nectar wells, and they contain stores of the nectar throughout the city so that all the buildings have a constant supply piped right to them. On top of that, there's another pretty neat feature of the Great Bloom, this time a totally organic one. The stamens of this giant flower peek up through the buildings of the city, serving as power conduits, further distributing the energy refined in the Stigma core. And lately while I'm building, I'm always wearing my Raycon E25s, today's sponsor. Honestly, when I'm sitting here building for hours on end, bulky headphones can get pretty uncomfortable. So wearing these lightweight earbuds instead really helps me lock in. On top of that, the E25s also have 8 hours of playtime, but the charging case holds 32 hours of charge, so they're also really handy on the go. The E25s also have quick tap functions for easy control and even noise cancellation, so I can focus on the grind without distractions. These earbuds are even water resistant, so when I'm sweating out a build for 8 hours straight, my music's playing just fine for the whole session. I'm personally really picky with earbuds, but Raycon offer a 30-day return policy, so you can try the E25s for yourselves with no commitment for a really reasonable price point as well. Support the channel and go to buyraycon.com/TrixyBlox to get 20% off site-wide. Brought to you by Raycon. Okay, this is all great, but am I seriously supposed to believe that this entire city is powered by one flower? I feel like to be truly sustainable, there needs to be another power source keeping things going. But what could that be? To answer my question, I flew to a real flower forest. In fact, the flower capital of the world, the Netherlands. We rented some scooters and took to the tulip fields. And I've got to say, we were blown away by the sheer volume of flowers. With our very own tour guide, we then stopped off at one of the biggest flower gardens in the world, grabbed some Dutch snacks, and eventually stumbled across a windmill. Now, wait a second, wasn't I here to find another power source idea? So, inspired by my trip, I decided that it would make sense that the Solari's first settlement would be a windmill, where the villagers conducted their first research into harnessing the unique abilities of the plant life in the biome. The Solari quickly outgrew their windmill once they discovered how to harness solar nectar, and their farming experiments with the mythic pollinators led to these giant vegetables being left behind when they relocated to the Great Bloom. But what they did take with them was their knowledge of wind energy. Around the city, sticking to their roots, the Solari built various windmills as an additional power source. So, with the power of the sun and the wind, this city is unstoppable. With this extra power at my fingertips, I thought I'd try my hand at some redstone mechanisms across the city to really bring some movement and life to this place. Then I realised, I know absolutely nothing about redstone. I mean, the most advanced redstone I've ever attempted was this gate in a subscriber transformation I did years ago. Not exactly high tech. Luckily, my friend Doug knows a thing or two about redstone. He helped me animate the arcade sign so our smiley friend blinks and even goes to sleep at night thanks to a daylight sensor. And we've also got some fun mechanisms scattered throughout the city, from animated billboards to moving displays, and even a particle accelerator on the side of the lab. Okay, so, remember those butterflies I mentioned earlier, the mythic pollinators? Well, I also decided to add them as a new custom mob throughout the biome. Different colours and rarities, each more likely to spawn in different locations across the flower forest. As the story goes, these creatures fled the jungle when Tala, the goddess who brought the jungle to life, was defeated by her evil son Velkar, who now rules the Nether. To ensure the species remains protected, the Solari stationed a scientist in this lab, known as the Bloom Keeper, to monitor the activity of the pollinators. So, I also decided to add a custom quest so you guys can help out. You'll get to take the Bloom Keeper's logbook and use the info in the lab to help you find every species and fill it in. Think of it like a cross between Grounded and Pokemon. When you collect a butterfly, it'll appear here in the lab's terrarium, so you can stop by anytime to check out all the butterflies you've discovered. Okay, before we start on the next lab, I need to address a serious problem. And it's this guy, the Wandering Trader. This dude's been following me around for years. He's been there with me for almost every building adventure. Well, until I learned how to turn mob spawning off while I build. What I'm trying to say is, he deserves an upgrade too. But how? He's a wandering trader, so I can't just build him a house. And that's when it hit me. A wandering structure. Some of the biomes on the island could have wandering structures, carried by creatures related to their biomes. And that's when I remembered the build that won my competition for a new jungle structure in the previous biome. Meet Tom's team. No, not the frog. This guy. He's one of the most talented organic builders I've ever seen, and already an expert in this wandering house concept. So what do you reckon, Tom? Have you got time to build?
There you go, the Wandering Grasshopper.
Whoa, this fits the biome so well. What a build.
That'll be $1,856.99.
I'll let you guys explore the interior of the Wandering Grasshopper for yourselves when the map releases. But for now, on to the next lab. This one is actually where we'll be reviving our first lost mob vote mob, the Bloomoo. Well, okay, not exactly. This is actually a mob inspired by the Bloomoo, known as the Bloomoo. Yep, that's what I came up with. Really original name. Anyway, I've made the Bloomoo mob a huge part of a quest you'll take on in the biome. You see, across the forest, certain flowers emit potent strains of pollen with special properties, which you'll experience when you enter the area. Bringing a Bloomoo into the vicinity of a flower emitting pollen that matches its colour will actually cause your special cow buddy to absorb it. Eventually, you'll be able to milk your Bloomoo to obtain an essence containing these special properties that you can then use to brew potions. So, they're pretty handy pets to keep around. And I mean, come on, these guys just look so cute. That's the most important thing, right? And for the final lab, things are a little less cute. Remember those mythic pollinators I mentioned earlier? Well, one of their subspecies went rogue. After an experiment on some bees went sideways in this facility, a giant mutated queen and her minions escaped into the flower forest. But where did they go? Well, they stumbled upon a giant fallen tree and made it their new home, building a structure known as the Hive. This is actually a custom Minecraft structure I decided to build for the flower forest biome. The Hive is an organic labyrinth designed by the queen and her servants to disorientate their victims and keep them prisoner until the queen is ready for her next meal. And let me tell you guys, I've made this place really confusing. You'll work your way through hexagonal rooms with moving walls and honey traps in search of the hidden treasures of the Hive, and most importantly, a way out. So with all that talk of a queen bee, I had to deliver on my promise and come up with a concept for her. She would be the boss battle for this biome after all. Whoa, okay, yeah, this might just be the coolest boss I've added so far. But what about attacks? After you've wrapped up all the quests of the flower forest, this will be your final challenge. I mean, I'm not here to spoil everything, but all I can say is good luck, guys. Having said that, there are some less hostile creatures and locations to discover across the biome as well. I really wanted to fill this place with little creatures and fun areas to explore and loot. I even spent hours building a massive anthill with an entire cave network inside it. Before we take a look at the finished build, I've got an exciting announcement. I'm now officially partnered with the Minecraft Marketplace, which means Bedrock is in for a real treat. In fact, this biome transformation will be our first product on the Marketplace. In the ultimate Solarpunk survival island coming later this year, you'll get to experience this whole biome along with all its special features, from mobs to quests, bosses and more. And that's just the beginning. Keep an eye out for updates on my socials. And with that, let's check out our transformed flower forest. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out the Patreon to support the channel and comment which biome you want to see me transform next.